Please join Michael Voris on July 15th through 17th for a second annual weekend retreat in Bloomington, Indiana, at the grounds of the Franciscan Friars of Immaculate. The retreat's theme will be the Church Triumphant, and we'll discuss the current crisis in the church, as well as our response in charity and boldness. Please click on the link for registration details and information. God bless.
Hello everyone, and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris, reporting to you this week from Dublin, Ireland. We're here in Ireland for a week, specifically Dublin, thanks to the generosity of a parish having us over to speak at their Sacred Heart Novena and to an assortment of various other groups. Following one of the masses this past week, a very old, kindly priest came up to me, Father Michael, and said, "Thank you for speaking so clearly about the faith." He told us that he'd been a priest for over 50 years and could not believe what had happened to the church over here in Ireland since the time he was ordained. And still holding onto my hand, he leaned into me with the greatest of Irish brogues and said, "I don't blame the people, they haven't been told. I blame the clergy, and I blame the bishops." God love you, Father Michael. As they say in Ireland, for sure, truer words were never spoken. We hear that from good holy priests everywhere we go, but they always say it in whispers, just in case the Lavender Mafia or the progressive modernist clerical crowd is within earshot. We also see evidence of it everywhere we go. We see evidence of it everywhere we go. Immediately after that Mass, we were whisked off to a local watering hole where a large group of young adult Catholics were meeting to welcome us to Ireland. They were and are a great group, and many of them came up to us afterwards with overwhelming enthusiasm and thanked us exuberantly for all of our efforts. One young lad, I'd say around 24, hung back and finally came up and introduced himself. Call him Ryan. Wonderful chap. And our conversation is yet another example of everything that is wrong in the church these days. And there is no other reaction a faithful Catholic can have other than justifiable anger. Ryan said to me that he wasn't baptized and wasn't even sure he believed in God, although the existence of God seems to make more sense to him. He said he was giving Catholicism a serious looking over because, and get this, the horrors that have resulted from the secular humanist world point of view point to the fact that this system of beliefs just can't be right, and that Catholicism, real Catholicism, he made the distinction, not me, was the only system that seemed to make sense and provide coherent answers to the moral chaos we have all around us. Awesome. Splendid. But here's what gets you angry. He said the morality of the church seemed to make sense to him, but as far as the teaching and the faith from which that morality springs, he couldn't find anyone to explain it to him. Even many of his friends that are Catholic that brought him to the club were strong in belief, but lacking in being able to explain the fundamental teachings of the church. He said whenever he looks to officials in the church, he gets no substance. Imagine that. So look at this. Here's a young fellow, spiritually starving, looking for answers to life's questions, the questions of life, and wandering about the world with almost no one to help him. His Catholic friends, dedicated in their commitment to the rightness of the faith, are themselves diminished in their own ability to articulate why the church teaches what it does. And why? Because the church leadership has left them to fend for themselves. Too many shepherds have simply left the sheep to be devoured. There was a time in Ireland and the U.S. when a young man like this could have simply knocked on the rectory door of any parish in Ireland and sat down with a priest who could have answered every one of these questions the young chap had. Now, here in Ireland and the United States as well, he'd knock on the door, be told to come back after scheduling an appointment with an ex-nun or feminist religious ed director who would tell him not to be so judgmental about all the immorality he sees around him. As a matter of fact, she'd probably say half of it isn't really immoral or a sin anyway. They'd invite him to some stupid class where he'd cut out drawings of Jesus from construction paper and glue them onto banners, or write out diaries explaining how he feels. This garbage has got to stop in the church. This young man deserves to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. In fact, he's demanding it. As well he should. This mealy-mouthed, never give offense to anyone approach of never calling a sin and refusing to ever breathe a word about the eternal consequences of immorality, all of this has got to stop. The church must be taken back from these gray-haired lesbian nuns and terrified clergy and tyrannical but ever soft-spoken religious ed directors and returned to its proper place. These people need to stand in front of crowds of young adult Catholics crying for leadership and the truth and stumbling to find their voice and realize that they are ever so precious to our blessed Lord, even if they aren't precious to them. The abandonment of these souls is an absolute cause of justifiable anger. If souls being left to fend for themselves while leaders blithely ignore them for the sake of political and theological correctness doesn't make you angry, then pray tell, you must have no pulse. Ryan has agreed to keep in continual contact with us through email and the Real Catholic TV website. Please pray for him, and that the light of faith that has already begun to ever so slightly emerge in him come to its full brilliance, and he come into the one true faith, the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church, of whom Peter is the head. We all need to get a little more angry about the current state of affairs. Oh, pray for the bishops, my fellow Catholics. Pray for the bishops. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.
Please help us keep delivering these kinds of messages that so desperately need to be heard and acted on. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber. Become immersed in the faith established by Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church is the only hope against evil because that is its God-given mission. As our Lord said, apart from me, you can do nothing. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber and come to learn and love Christ more deeply.